and then I get over into some type of mantra type talking point. Most of them, every single one of them, I got off Bugs or Bob's or Simmons or Payne's. I don't invent this stuff because there's a lot of professionals on there. That's what I would recommend you do. Again, the only cardinal sin is not going into mantra type thinking and not learning how to and not making your point about genocide. It doesn't matter how you do it. It's not a how or a why. That can be stylistic. That can be personal. How Payne does it or how Simmons does it, how Bob does it is going to be unique. Bob on Fox News is something very simple. He read the mantra. That's all you have to do. It's just a matter of being on a consistent message over and over again. If you post online, post the whole mantra. Then go into your individual talking points. But definitely get out a consistent message. Hopefully I answered your questions, and when it comes to asking questions on Bugs, feel free to ask them about talking points or about particular tactics, and you'll get a variety of answers, but they'll all be pretty interesting, they'll all be pretty good, and they'll all be something you can make your own and use them. Lord Nelson has a unique style. They're all going to have a unique style, but they're all going to be pretty effective in the long run. It doesn't mean they're perfect. It doesn't mean Simmons is perfect. It doesn't mean Bob is perfect. They may think they are, but they're not. But generally the ideal is to make your point, and we already have everything you need is there. It's just a matter of making it your own and using it in the right circumstances. But when in doubt, just go with the mantra. One last thing, Frank, I want to talk about one of the last posts on the blog. It's an interesting post. I don't know who it's referring to, but I'm going to read it. The races. Don't let them get away with murder. That is what you do when you allow anyone to talk about mixing the races. It allows them to get away with genocide. They tell you that all races are taking an equal part in this. That is just fair play. It infuriates me when people let this go by while they recited the latest line. One of our spokesmen was doing an interview, and the interviewer mentioned that nobody was demanding that Japan take in immigrants. Our spokesman, however, was busy talking about what an aristocrat he was and let it slide. And then Bob gives his mantra, and that's Bob's. Anti-racist is a code word for anti-white. You know, Africa for the Africans, Asia for the Asians, white countries for everybody. I've already read the mantra, but basically he posts that. You can go to the blog whittakeronline.org. whittakeronline.org /blog and see it. And that is his latest post, and it's an interesting post. A lot of times when you go on a talk show, I'm going to read this again. One of our spokesmen was doing an interview, and the interview mentioned that nobody was demanding Japan take in immigrants. Our spokesman, however, was busy talking about what an aristocrat he was and let it slide. A lot of times on a call-in radio show, I don't know when this happened, I don't know how this happened, and I don't know who did it. It doesn't really matter. Bob knows, and Bob's a coach. And one thing I'm going to make a couple points, actually, not just one, but when Bob does something like this, you know, I think of Bob as like Bobby Knight. And now that he's posting again on the blog, that's what he is, Frank. He's Bobby Knight, and Bobby Knight can throw a chair, and that's what he's doing. He's throwing a chair at someone. But one thing I want to make a point of is anytime you're going on, and some of you will be going on some kind of, let's say a call-in radio show. Or a call-in radio show is you say something and they keep you on for a while, and you hit a mantra or you hit a talking point or whatever. Your job is to obviously get into mantra thinking. That is a cardinal sin. If you don't get into mantra thinking, or if you don't make a mantra point on some level, that's a cardinal sin. And you always want to mention the G word. That's what the mantra is about, genocide. But a lot of times on a call-in show, if you say something interesting, they're going to keep you on for a while. It's just the nature of the beast. And if they keep you on for a while, you're going to go to commercial. Why? Because that's the nature of the beast. So if you're on a call-in show and they keep you through a commercial, they're going to ask you a lot of questions. You know, they like you, you're striking up rapport, you say something interesting, you're going to be talking about all kinds of things. That's their job. Their job on a call-in show, when they go call-in on any type of radio show, they're going to talk about everything anyone calls in on. So you're going to be talking about all kinds of interesting stuff. They're going to be asking you questions, and obviously you want to have something in common with them because you're building a rapport. Well, a lot of times when that show clicks back on live, you've got to come back and try to make a mantra point again, and it's not as you know, it can be kind of difficult to do. But a lot of times that's where this stuff comes in at, where you're not making a point. Generally, when someone gets you off subject matter, when it comes to an interview, a lot of times that comes between the breaks. You're talking about something else on break, and you let your minds wander. The point I want to make to you is one thing, and by the way, that is a common mistake. I've seen a lot of people make it, and pros can make it. That means if this is your first radio show or your first interview or you're probably going to make some mistakes. If this is the first 10 interviews, you're going to make a mistake. One thing you want to do on a call-in show or anything like that is have the mantra in front of you. You know, print it out and have the mantra in front of you. If you go to the top of the thing, you're going to see the white mantra. Always have that in front of you. When in doubt, read it. When in doubt, just read it off. That's fine. There are no rules to coming back to message, but the only rule is when it comes to the mantra is always make your point, and the point is genocide. But it's very easy on a show because when you typically on our call-in show, you may call in, you may wait for an hour, you may make a point. Some of you are going to make a point so well that they want to talk about other things. That's fine. You know, that's fine. They go to break, and next thing you know, those breaks, by the way, can last forever. If you've ever been behind the scenes in a radio show, you think those breaks last 30 seconds, a minute, they can seem like eternity. You can talk about the whole entire NASCAR race that happened yesterday. And they will. That's the nature of it. They want to strike up rapport with you, and you want to do the same, right? Maybe you want to get asked back on there so you can make more mantra points. But at the same time, you got to come back to the basics, and it's very easy to get off topic, especially after a break. It's just the nature of the beast. And one thing I would advise you to do is keep the mantra in front of you, so you can immediately see the mantra and try to come back and make a mantra point about whatever you're talking about. Sure, everything's racial. Yeah, you're talking about NASCAR in between the break, or they're talking about NASCAR. Just point out the obvious. No one's demanding that the Japanese sport Sudoku or whatever no one's demanding that become multiracial or multicultural. No one's demanding that exclusive African sports become multiracial, multicultural. Only white children are affected by this, and only white sports like NASCAR are targeted like this. It's genocide. You can always make a point, but sometimes it's simple for me to do here, but it's not necessarily easy. If you're on an interview show, you're being interviewed for the first time, you come back from break, or you come back for some cutoff, and they're talking to you about all kinds of stuff. Maybe they find you interesting. When you get on the blog and you read some of these posters, some of them are pretty interesting characters. They may be aristocrats, real aristocrats. Who knows? Who cares? I'm just trying to help you out, because if you don't, you're going to get a chair thrown at you. But Bob's just being Bobby Knight. Yeah, Bobby Knight's job is to win games, and if someone's not doing up to good, they're not shooting the way they should be shooting, or they get off topic, or they screw up. Well, he's going to throw a chair at you. He's not doing it to hurt you. He's doing it to make a point. I don't know who did this. It doesn't really matter. For all I know, it could be yours truly. Yeah, Horace. I don't think I've been on a talk show yet. But Horace could have been on a talk show and did something crazy. I don't know. I don't think so, because typically I would print out the mantra. But coming back from, if you've never done one before, and I haven't done that many. I've never done one as Horace yet, that I know of. But if you're coming back from break, you want to get back in the message and try to make your point. And generally on a call-in radio talk show, they're going to be talking about all kinds of crazy stuff, but everything's racial. Doesn't matter. Even NASCAR is, sure. But you have to come back and make that point, or at least try to do the best you can. No one's going to be perfect. And by the way, you can get a chair thrown at you by Bobby Knight for looking at him sideways on the wrong day. It's just the nature of the beast. But that's why he's a coach. If you don't want to play for Bobby Knight, don't take the scholarship. Don't go play for him. But if you're playing for Bobby Knight, he can be a little rough. That's just his style. But Bob is back posting, and Bob is a coach. But he knows how to win, and he's going to expect something in a particular way, and he's going to remind you of it. He may not be so nice. he doesn't necessarily remind people nicely, but it depends on the mood he's in and whatever. Like our spokesman was busy talking about what an aristocrat he was and let it slide. He's not being very nice. He's just throwing a chair at someone. But if you're on one piece of advice I could offer you, and I don't care who's listening to this. If you're going to be talking you definitely want to have the mantra in your pocket, or be able to come back and make your point in between a break. If you're there and you're saying something clever, they're going to keep you. As you're making your point, if they like you at all, they're going to keep you through a break on a talk radio show. And these breaks can last forever, and they're going to talk to you about all kinds of